The sun was sinking behind the jagged line of the distant mesas when Wyatt Callahan pulled his horse to a stop at the edge of the canyon. The wind had begun to whisper cold warnings through the rocks, carrying with it the scent of dust, gunpowder, and something else, something metallic. Blood. He'd been trailing the outlaw gang for 2 days straight. Not because it was his job, he wasn't a sheriff anymore, but because they'd burned a ranch house south of Dry Creek and left no survivors. At least, that's what the papers said. But Wyatt didn't trust the papers. He trusted instinct. And right now, instinct had drawn him off the trail and toward a lonely patch of red dirt below the bluffs. That's when he saw it. A splash of white among the sagebrush, torn cloth clinging to a figure sprawled face down in the dust. At first, he thought it was a corpse, another victim tossed aside like garbage. But then, as he dismounted and approached slowly, the sun caught a flicker of movement. A hand. Just a twitch, barely more than the flutter of a dying bird's wing, but it was enough. Wyatt dropped to his knees beside her, heart thundering. She was young, no more than 23. Blood matted her dark hair, soaked into the faded blue of her dress. Her lips were cracked. Skin pale as bone. There were 2 gunshot wounds, one in the shoulder, another lower, near her ribs. They'd shot her and left her to die. But she hadn't died. Not yet. I got you, Wyatt whispered hoarsely. You hold on, sweetheart. You hold on. He scooped her into his arms, careful of her wounds, and rushed back to his horse. Every step was agony for her, he could feel it in the faint tremble of her breath. But she didn't cry out. Didn't even open her eyes. Wyatt rode hard that night. The nearest town was over 20 miles away, but he couldn't risk taking her to Dry Creek, not if the men who tried to kill her were still watching the roads. Instead, he took her to his cabin in the hills, a quiet place nestled in a grove of pines, where no one would think to look. For 3 days, she hovered between life and death. Wyatt nursed her fever. Cleaned her wounds. Whispered stories to her as she lay unconscious about wild horses, desert stars, and the sound of rain on a tin roof. He told her about his late wife, Eliza, and how the world had lost its color when she died. About how he left the badge behind because justice, as he knew it, had stopped meaning anything. On the 4th day, she opened her eyes. At first, she just stared. Confused. Fragile. Scared. Then, slowly, her lips parted. Where? You're safe, Wyatt said, kneeling beside her bed. Name's Wyatt Callahan. Found you near Red Bluff. You were hurt bad. Real bad. Her eyes filled with tears. They thought I was dead. Who? He asked gently. Who did this to you? She closed her eyes, as if the memory itself was too heavy to bear. The Hollow Creek Gang. They came for my father. He owned land they wanted rich with silver. When he wouldn't sell, they shot him. Burned our home. I tried to run. Her voice broke. Wyatt gritted his teeth. You're lucky you survived, he said quietly. Damn lucky I saw your hand move. I didn't think I was moving, she whispered. I thought I was already gone. He gently took her hand in his. You weren't. You're here now. Her name was Clara Monroe. And as the days passed, Wyatt learned she was more than a survivor, she was sharp, brave, and determined. Her father had raised her tough, taught her how to shoot and read maps, how to ride and how to fight. But nothing could have prepared her for betrayal, not from men she once trusted. They weren't strangers, she told Wyatt one night by the fireplace. The Hollow Creek boys, 2 of them used to work for us. My father gave them a chance. Fed their families. And they turned on us. Wyatt felt something stir inside him then. A long-dead fire. He couldn't undo the past. Couldn't bring Eliza back. But maybe, just maybe, he could help Clara get justice. Real justice. Not the kind written in law books, but the kind carved in grit and blood and truth. Together, they began to plan. Clara healed slowly, but with purpose. Wyatt taught her how to handle a rifle with more precision. She helped him map out the gang's movements using the knowledge she'd gained while living among ranchers, traders, and even outlaws who whispered rumors over campfires. The Hollow Creek gang had grown bold. Too bold. They thought Clara was dead. They were wrong. One by one, Wyatt and Clara struck. Sabotaged the gang's supply lines. Freed captives. Exposed their deals to the town's reluctant sheriff, who finally grew a spine and deputized a posse. But it was Clara who faced the leader, Jude Carver, in the very canyon where she'd been left to die. "You should have finished the job," she said coldly, raising her revolver. Jude laughed. "You think you're some kind of avenging angel, girl? You're just another ghost I made." She pulled the trigger. The shot rang out through the canyon, echoing across the rocks like thunder. When it was over, Wyatt stood beside her, silent. Clara holstered the gun with shaking hands. "It's done." "No," Wyatt said softly. "Now it begins." Months passed. The town of Dry Creek slowly returned to peace. With the Hollow Creek gang dismantled and the land returned to the rightful heirs, folks began to speak Clara Monroe's name with reverence. Some called her a hero. Others a legend. But to Wyatt, she was something else. A reason. She brought color back into his world. Light into the shadows. And though he never tried to replace Eliza's memory, he let Clara carve a space beside it. They rebuilt her father's ranch together. Not just with wood and nails, but with laughter, with stories, with forgiveness. And every now and then, as the wind swept through the canyon, Wyatt would remember that one trembling hand reaching through the dust, clinging to life when death had all but claimed it. That small flicker of hope changed everything. And for the rest of his days, he never let it go.